Happy Self Love Sunday. I am Tarnisha Mosas, your host of Self Love Sundays with Sass. I am your vision and strategist coach who comes every single Sunday so we can talk about all the ways in which we can better our best. And y'all, let me just tell you right now, I'm exhausted. I went yesterday. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know I've been in fitness, in the fitness industry. I used to teach for 10 years and I still hold my certification. So yesterday we had like an 8 hour certification. And I don't know the last time I've moved my body for 6 hours. And I am paying for it today. But nevertheless, we are here. And I'm going to tell you, like, today's topic is so important to me because we're going to dive deep. Um, into talking about facing adversity. And I'm gonna tell you why. I've talked to so many people as a coach, and we talk about their different stories, right? And I'm just like, life has a way of throwing us curveballs. But what separates those who thrive from those who crumble is how do we respond to it? You know, the truth is, you are really stronger than you think. I think a lot of people get caught up in their head thinking they're the only ones. I mean, I just had a conversation with a young lady yesterday. And she was kind of telling me a story, and I was like, "There's a million women out there like you." And she's like, "There's really not." And she started to tell her story, and I'm like, yeah, they are." And that's just it. We start to think that we're the only ones, and so today I want to teach you 3 ways to take your power back in the face of adversity. So when adversity strikes, I want you to be prepared to be able to stand in your power, stand in your truth. It's right now. It's time for you to control the narrative and own your story and turn your shame and your guilt into a powerful testimony. And the first step into taking your power back is simple, but it's not easy. And I understand that, but you got to own your story. Let me tell you, just recently, Shannon Sharp, he is a sports figure, Hall of Famer, but he also has his own podcast right now. He was just recently, an accident happened where his Instagram live actually was streaming and he was in the middle of an adult act. And I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who know the story, miss me with the fact that, he did that intentionally. Are you crazy? Listen, this is why I know half of the people are not like using their brain cells, because anybody who is potentially negotiating 6 and 7 figure deals on the back end will not do something like that to satisfy the voice of people that they don't know. Like, I mean, I really don't think people have it all up here. Like, are you crazy? Nobody's sacrificing 6 7 figure deals to prove something to people. And this is why this talk today is so important, because one of the things he did was, he knew people were going to run with it, but he owned the story. He owned his truth. And so whatever you're going through, no matter how painful or difficult or embarrassing, the power begins when you stop running from it and accept it and just own it. Just own it. Too often we try to ignore it or deny it, or we start just blaming everybody else and blaming the other person. It's so interesting when people start to tell me their stories. I know we have this innate thing where we need to be the good person. We need to be, because we need people to see us as that. So as they're telling the story, they're telling all the bad things about the other person, all the bad and all of this. Here's the thing, it may even be true. But when you're talking to somebody like me, I just feel like it's so unnecessary. Because here's the thing, you're still giving that person the power by like deflecting and throwing it. Like, listen, at the end of the day, just own the story, whatever it is. Listen, you can't conquer what you won't confront. And you got to own your story or it will own you. And that's just the thing. We think by turning it around and flipping it on another person, it's like, oh no, but it's because of this and the other. I understand that it takes two to tangle. I understand that somebody else sometimes provokes people to doing things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you sit and then you own it and you say, you know what? I realized when I first stepped into that partnership business, when I first stepped into that partnership relationship, when I first stepped into that partnership friendship, I knew something was off, but I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust how I was feeling at the time. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to go with it and I'm going to make this thing work. Whatever that is, you got to own that, because you do have a piece in it. Everybody wants to act like they don't. I'll go with that with you today. But the truth of the matter is we all own a piece in the story, whatever it is. So just own it. You got to think about it this way. When you acknowledge your adversity, you're taking the reins back. Like you're taking it back. Listen, because here's the other part. When you don't own your story, like think about the Shannon Sharp thing. Had he not, went on his podcast and just owned the fact that it was truth, he made a mistake, people would have been running with this narrative forever. If he would have lied and said, oh, somebody hacked his account or whatever it is, he would have, allowed other people to run with a different story and different narratives instead of just owning it. When you own something, you literally take the power back, right? You say, listen, yes, this happened. Yes, I made that mistake. Yes, okay, it was on me. Yes, I didn't love myself enough. Yes, I didn't discern. Yes, I didn't take my time. When you own it, it changes the game because you decide how the story ends. That's the kicker. When you own it, the world, outside influencers, and even adversity itself can't control the narrative. But when you don't own it, they can control the narrative. I hope you got that, right? When you own it, outside influencers, the world, and even the adversity itself, right, can't control the narrative. But when you don't own it, they can control the narrative. But when you take ownership, you become come on, man, you become the author of your life story. You become the author when you just own it. So many people just don't want to take accountability. Just own it. Like own your mess. One of the things that I did in, I wrote a book. It's called Find Your Way, 7 Ways to Love and Heal Yourself. When I wrote that book, I didn't just put in there, the places where, I was hurt. I put in there where I also hurt people too. Because the truth of the matter, if you're living on this earth, not only have you been hurt, but you hurt somebody too, but you're just not willing to own it. Own it. When you own it, not only do you take the power back, it gives you the position to say, this is where I need to do more work on me. And if you don't think you need to do some work on yourself, I'm gonna tell you right now, you need to stop this video and you need to find you a therapist ASAP. We all have work to do. But when you're facing adversity, instead of framing the problem, I want you to write down what you learned from it, because this is how you grow, right? And here's what I'm going to say. If you're in the middle, in the thick of it, I know right now, like when you're in the middle, in the thick of anything, you're like, no lesson, there's no lesson. It's them, it's this, it's that, it's my mother, it's my partner, it's my kids. I get it. In the middle of the storm, you just can't see. When you're on the outside of the storm, if you take a second and sit down and start to think about it, own your place in it, there are so many lessons in anything. Whether it is just to trust your gut, whether it is just to say, you know what, I kind of sensed this about that person from the beginning. I didn't trust how I felt about it. Own it. Because when you own it, you can say, you know what? How can I show up for me differently next time? How can I be better the next time? Right. And so now that you owned your story, it's time to control the narrative. Right. So here's the reality. If you don't control how your story is told, someone else will. If you don't control how your story is, someone else will. Don't give anybody the opportunity to do that. And I promise you, they are not going to tell a story that benefits you. Nor should they. It's their end of the story. You know what? People love to jump in and create their own versions of your struggle. You know that, right? Like, but you have the power to stop it. And I see it every day. I see it on social media. I see it on TikTok. People will take 1 ounce of something and run with it and create this own narrative. And the reason being is because people know negativity sells. They understand that people will be more prone to gossip than a beautiful story. Real talk. Like people are more prone to anything negative that's going to tear somebody down that they can gossip about because they're really unhappy in their own lives. So they're willing to run with that as opposed to something that's powerful and positive, right? But here's how you can snatch that power back. You got to control it. If you don't control your story, someone else will, and they're not going to tell it like you can. And they're not going to tell your truth. They're going to tell their truth. And their truth is they didn't even have to be there. They don't even have to know you. They're just going to make something up because this is what we do anyway. The truth of the matter is this is why communication is so important. Most people just walk around thinking that they think that somebody is thinking something that they're not even thinking. That's the truth, but nobody wants to talk about that today. But I understand that there may be some shame and guilt in there, but that's why it creeps in because number one, you don't own your story. Number two, you don't control it. So we fear what others might say or think, right? And it gives them the power over us. That's why so many people don't start their podcasts. That's why so many people don't start their business. They're so afraid of what other people think. The bottom line is how many, there are what, 8 billion people on the planet. Are you serious? You're going to listen, a few listen, you don't even know hundreds of people. Let's just keep this real. Okay. If it's thousands, wow, some people that follow you. There is billions. You're gonna let 1,000 stop you because of fear? Come on, man. But when you decide to control the narrative, you flip the script. When I controlled the narrative on my story and I just started telling it, it was like, listen, I flipped the script. I took that shame and I took that guilt and I turned it into something powerful. It's a powerful testimony that not only it can inspire you, but it actually can inspire others. And this, I was just talking to a woman yesterday about writing her book, but she's so worried about what other people are going to think and other people are going to say. I'm like, do you know how many people you're going to empower with your story? It's not about you. This is the biggest problem. When you do this, it's not about you. It's about the people that you're going to help. And you'll be like, oh, nobody, I can help anybody. Listen, let me tell you something. In life, there are levels, right? If you are level 3, you can help a 1. What? If you're a level 5, you can help a 3. If you're a level 10, you can help a 6. You don't have to be, Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey or any of the big figureheads to make an impact, right? You can impact people. There's always someone a level lower than you, right? So write the book, write your story, help people out. But the thing about it is you got to get out of your own way and you got to understand that the story is not for you. It's to help somebody else. So don't write it in a way to make yourself feel like this big superhero versus all these villains. No, you write in such a way that it's powerful that people know that, listen, I own my story. I own where I didn't love myself. I own where I hurt people. I wasn't only a victim. I victimized somebody else. But you got to be, here's the thing, you got to be accountable to that though before you do that. But I'm telling you, that testimony that you have is powerful. It's going to save somebody's life. You listen, I tell you, when I told my story in my book, and you have to get it because I really don't want, it's too much to like kind of like dive into. But when I made that decision to own where I failed in my marriage, when I made the decision to own it, and here's the thing, I really don't call it failure. It's like what the lessons that I learned, where not only that I felt like I was hurt by my husband, but I hurt him too. When I owned the part of me, hurting my children as a mom, not just being a great mother, right? It's like, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I did the best I could with what I knew how, but that still don't mean I didn't make mistakes, right? And I owned it. I owned where I constantly blame my parents for things where I was an adult. Listen, as an adult, listen, we are born looking like our parents. We're going to die looking like our choices and decisions. So I had to own that, right? So you have to ask yourself right now, who's writing your story? Who's writing it? Is it based on some past traumatic event that you're still stuck in? And let me tell you something about a story too, right? I know I only share my story when I'm sharing it from a point of the testimonial to help someone um, get through whatever they're going through. Like my story is, I'm a mom who buried 2 sons. If a mother's dealing with grief, whether it's murder or having a baby born and pass away, because that's what happened with me, right? We're talking about that. Or a story about how I didn't love myself. First of all, getting married and I didn't even know who I was. I just wanted to be married because I thought that was the right thing to do. Or being touched as a 13-year-old kid, by a family member's partner, right? Like, only time I tell my story is I'm telling it as a testament. It's not to be still stuck in it. Let me tell you something. Some of you guys sound like an old tape recorder. And it's like, and here's the thing about that. Every time you tell a story, you put yourself right back in the place, and you're not telling it from a powerful standpoint. You're not telling it from a place of owning it. You're not telling it from a place of, I did that. You're not telling it from a place of, I was resilient. You're not telling it from a place of, I owned it, right? No, you're telling it from a place of, woe is me and poor me. And it's old and it's tired. And then you wonder why you're not successful and why you haven't moved on. You're still stuck in that same old thing, that relationship from 5, 10, and 15 years ago. Are you serious? That's the biggest trick of the enemy. The biggest trick of the enemy is to allow you to believe that you have to stay stuck in that place, stay stuck in that story, stay stuck in that belief about, and that person then becomes all men, and that person then becomes all women, and that then person becomes all children, and that becomes all parents. Absolutely freaking. Now everybody's a narcissist. Are you like, this is the trick. This is why you got to get with growth. And this is why you got to get around a community of like-minded people. And this is why there's a couple of things that's important that comes into play. A, spirituality. You have to believe in something higher than yourself to help you work through things. B, a therapist. It's real, y'all. Some of y'all really need therapists, and some of y'all therapists need therapists too. Okay. And it's not some, all, period. Get you a coach. Get around a community of like-minded individuals where you can grow and somebody can look you in your face and say, you know what? You've been telling that same story now over and over again. And if the person has to be so bad, you have to make the person to be this vilified, disgusting monster for what? For so you can feel better, so you can say, oh, you know what, and they did this to me and they did that to me, so you can feel better. Just own your part in it, claim it, name it, let it go. Real talk, like come on. If you aren't writing your story, right? If you're not the person writing, so who is? Is it the old thing that you keep talking about? Don't you think it's time to change that? Don't you think today is the day to take your power back? Start by telling yourself your story in a way that empowers you, right? And that's gonna help empower somebody else. Whether you have children or not, right? They play a role in it. It'll help empower them. What lessons did you learn? Besides the fact of blaming the other person, look, I get it. They may have harmed you. I'm not saying that. But how have you grown from it? If you're still telling it from the same standpoint, you haven't grown an ounce. You got to start controlling the narrative in your mind first, because that's where it's playing out in your mind, right? And then you could look at it from a different perspective. That's how you take control of it. And it's not about caring about what anybody else says. It's about what you're saying about yourself. Because every time you come into a conversation, you start talking to somebody, oh, people know. People know. I can pick up within the first 3 to 4 minutes whether this person is going to be a complete victim or they're gonna stand in their power of something, right? And then as long as you stand in that victim mode, you can never hit into your power. And the truth of the matter is the same things that help you get to this point in life is going to be the same things that stop you from going to your next level. That's why you got to take power. You got to take your power back. That's why you got to own your story. That's why you got to control the narrative, right? And so let's talk about shame and guilt for a second. The two emotions that weigh most people down when facing adversity. But here's the truth. Shame and guilt can be transferred into the most powerful thing you can ever do. They can become a foundation for your testimony, right? And trust me, your testimony will not only heal you, will heal others. I wish that people will understand today that this life that you live in, yes, it is, you are the power within it. However, it's not about you. It is about what you can do for so many other people. Shame and guilt don't define you. Ugh, especially when you turn them into something that's so powerful, right? That's why I tell people, write the book. Even if you feel like, okay, I listen, everybody doesn't want to be an author. I'm okay with that, right? But there are so many people that have beautiful stories that are positive, that are loving, and our voices are being shut out by these negative gossip sites. And you know why? Because we're so busy living in shame and guilt, and they're just loud and proud about all the messy, nasty things that they put out in this world. I want more positive, powerful, loving people. I want your voices to be heard. That's what this is about. I understand this is bigger than me. That's why when I come on here and talk to you every Sunday, I pray that something that I say will help catapult you into action, because the world needs more positive voices, and our voices need to be louder and more projected than what's out there right now, because these messy, nasty, worldly people are tearing us apart and dividing us apart. But like I know, if you're listening to me, there's so much more love in this world. Yesterday when I was at the fitness convention, we were hugging and loving and dancing on each other. Music is a universal language of love, and there's so much more love out there. But you got to get outside the four corners of your town, your city, your state, and you got to reach out and find those places. Listen, when I go to Tony Robbins programs, when I go to Eric Thomas programs, now I'm building my own program. When I go to different conventions, what we're in there doing? We're in there loving and hugging on each other. We're in there uplifting and empowering one another. In my community, every single morning, we're Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, we're doing our accountability call. We're learning and loving and cheering each other on. It exists, but you got to get outside the four corners of your wall. You got to stop letting shame and guilt hold you back. Nobody cares. This lady sat and told me her whole story, told me how she was arrested and everything. I didn't flinch. And she said, you know what? You didn't even make a face when I said, well, I was arrested. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no judgment. People like this live in this world. It's what did you do? Did you take your power back? Did you own it? Did you claim it? Are you still hiding in shame and guilt? Are you standing in your power? Are you reframing it? That's the most important thing. Reframing is one of the most powerful tools you can have. When you take something that feels like a burden and you turn it into a source of strength and saying, you know what? I can't, I can't get over the fact that, he hurt me so bad. And when you take that and say, you know what, yeah, I did experience some hurt. I did experience some pains. And you know what I learned in that? What I learned in that is I didn't love myself enough to walk away. I thought a relationship was everything that I needed. I thought that, if I just got with somebody and they loved me, that I would be so much better. But what I didn't realize is that I had to love me first. And when I stand in a place of loving me, not only does it allow me to love others better, but it allows me to say, hey, listen, this is my boundary. And when you cross it, I get to walk away. When I love myself, it gets me to stop raising my children in guilt. And so I can set boundaries now with them. And I don't have to feel so much guilt because it didn't work out between me and their father, or me and their father got into an argument, or me and their mother didn't work out. I don't have to raise them from a place of guilt. So now I'm giving everything and giving myself away, which is not great for them. See, it's so much different when you stand in. Oh man, I hope you get this today. So think about it like this. Adversity doesn't happen to you, it happens actually for you, because something, and I know, I hear it. People be like, "Ugh, what do you mean it happens for me?" Sometimes a smack in the face, and listen, I'm the type of person that says too, I try to avoid the slap too. Sometimes that slap in the face is a wake-up call. Say, hey, hold on for a second. Why are you allowing people to treat you that way? Why are you going on that job, allowing them to talk to you any kind of way? Why are you in this building allowing for a boss to talk to you and treat you like you're trash, all because you think you need a piece of paper called money that you can get any place? But when you have character and you have boundaries and when you stand up for yourself, I did this. I'm not telling you something I didn't do. Let me tell you something. I've been in corporate America 27 years. I had a person, she was a VP, and she decided one day that she wanted to like go off of me and belittle me. And she meant all of me that day. I'm not telling you something. I stood my ground and told her, you will never speak to me like that again. I wasn't a VP, I was a first level. Never speak. And you guess what? She never did. And now we have a great relationship. Sometimes standing in your power is the very thing that a person who doesn't understand, and I don't necessarily want to call people a bully, but it is what it is, right? But the person who's strong, to feel like they're strong like that, you stand up for yourself, it changes the game. But I had to get slapped in my face to say, you know what? Nobody's gonna talk to me like that. Yes, at the time I felt like I needed my job because I, needed to pay for my household and my children. But at the same token, respect goes a long way. And I respect everybody because I am going to be respected. Right? There's something powerful about that. So, and I'm telling you right now, there's somebody out there that needs you and needs to hear your story, but they need to hear from a place of power. Please stop telling people this woe is me stuff. Please stop with this, and they did this to me and they keep doing this to me and they keep doing it. Are you crazy? It's funny. The biggest thing is I remember I had a client. She's like, she said that people on her job were manipulating her. I said, really? Somebody can manipulate you? It was just a question, but it was the way I asked the question. Wow, man, you don't own anything about your life, huh? They can just manipulate you. And she had to think about it. Like, I'm an adult, but that's what it takes sometime, right? That's what it takes sometime. You gotta reframe it. But it starts with reframing in your mind. It starts with saying, okay, I gotta own my part in this. All right. What it is, and so what did I do to help build myself back? What did I do to help put one foot in front of the other? What did I do? When you start telling it from that perspective, you're helping someone else. There's a million people going through what you're going through right now. You are not the only one. I promise you that. I promise you that. It may be on a different scale, but there is people go through the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun. As this world turns, as what happens in the 20s happens in the 30s, it happened in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now into the 2000s. It's nothing new under the sun. It just rotates. It just rotates. Sometimes it get meaner, sometimes it get nastier. But people are going through it and they need you. They need powerful people that are not just going to tell them to lay down and take it. That's not going to tell them to hate the world. That's not going to tell them that every man and woman, black and white, and this is just so bad. It's not the truth. It's their truth because it's their trauma. It's their truth because it's their hell. It's their truth. It doesn't have to be yours. Own it. Take it back with power. So many powerful people in this world. Stormy Wellington, people can think what you want about her, but listen, she went from a stripper to a multi-millionaire. She owned her story. Dr. Sonia Stribling, who happens to be my coach, she was she's an Army veteran that has a traumatic brain injury that built a $28 million coaching company, right? Look at people like Lisa Nichols, one of the most powerful women speakers there is out there, right? Oprah Winfrey, I know everybody knows her story, but you can say what you want about it, but look what she started. Look what she started and look what she is. And it can happen for you too. These are ordinary people that did extraordinary things because they own their story. Own yours. Own yours. Dr. Eric Thomas, homeless, to one of the number one motivational speakers in the world. Tony Robbins, to an alcoholic mother who beat on him. Look to, like, come on. And you think they had, none of these people that I named had a leg up. None of them. I don't even have a leg up, but I'm taking my ownership of my life to leave something. Listen, one of the ladies, really quickly, where I got my coaching certification is AAAI ISMA. Her name was Nora Anderson, one of the most beautiful fitness. She was, big back in the 70s and the 80s, right? And she built this company, and we all came together because she passed away of cancer, to memorize her yesterday. And what was so beautiful about that is she owned her story. She created a legacy. And now she's passed away. Long after she lived, there's something beautiful. She wanted to put health and fitness and wellness into the world. And now she's passed away and is living beyond her. What's going to live beyond you? Nothing's going to live beyond you if you don't take control of your story. If you don't own it, take control of it and move past the shame and guilt and turn it into something positive, right? These are people who refrain their struggles, and as a part of their journey, and they turned it into powerful testimonies, not only elevated them, but impacted, and they're not influenced, okay, impacted millions of lives, including mine. So here's an exercise for you, because I want to give you something really quick. I want you to number one, write down your story, but from a powerful place. I want you to start to own it, right? And then next thing I want you to do is take the most shameful or guilty thing that you're feeling, and I want you to start to reframe it, right? I want you to turn it into a lesson. I want you to turn it into a powerful testimony. And what I want you to do is I want you to go tell somebody that story. Somebody, it can be somebody that you love. It could be a friend. After you write it, go tell it. I want you to speak it as loud as you can. And I want you to get used to telling it. I want you to get used to owning it. I want you to get used to controlling it. And I want you to take it and share it from a place of power. I want you to share it, right? And you're going to find the more and more you do that, it's going to build the confidence. It's going to build your belief. And the more and more you do that, then every person that you touch, guess what happens? They're going to touch somebody and so everybody that touches them, and then you're going to build this string. And you know what that string is? Your legacy. And I pray that you really start doing that today. So I really want to thank you guys for joining me today. And I want you to really know and leave here knowing that adversity does not define you. It's how you respond to it that makes all the difference. Take your power back by owning your story, controlling the narrative, and turning your shame and guilt into a powerful testimony that you can share with others. We need more light and we need more love in the world, and it starts with you. And you are stronger than your struggles. Just remember that. And listen, every day to sunrise, you get another day to do better, be better, and have better when you start to love on you better. And your story has power to inspire not just you, but it may not inspire your family members in the beginning. So maybe you have to branch out from there. And just remember, adversity doesn't define you, it refines you. Adversity doesn't define you, it refines you. Take your power back. Share. Listen, if this hit home for you today, please share. If this resonated with you, please like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I love to hear from you. I love to hear some of your powerful stories. Please feel free to share or comment in the comment section. Let me know that you've taken your power back. Just comment, I'm taking my power back today. I would love to see it and hear from you. And I hope you have the most amazing Sunday. And I'll talk to you next week.